The champagne flute felt cold and brittle in my hand, a stark contrast to the stifling, overheated air of the hotel's grand ballroom. Around me, the polished gleam of my family's wealth was on full display, the men in bespoke suits, the women dripping with diamonds that caught the light from the chandeliers. And at the center of it all, my older brother, Ethan, beamed with a dopey, love-struck expression I'd never seen before, his arm possessively around the waist of his fiancée, Chloe. I took a small sip, the bubbles sharp and useless against the knotted dread in my stomach. I'd flown in from New York for this, the grand engagement party, my family's pride parade. Me, Ava, the afterthought, the silent one, the one who, in my mother's opinion, had taken the invisible path through life. They believed I was a freelance graphic designer, living quietly in a cramped apartment. The reality, I shaped empires behind closed doors. Ava, there you are, skulking in the corner as usual. My mother's voice, like finely honed steel wrapped in silk, cut through the murmur. She floated over, a vision in champagne silk. You could try to look happy for your brother. That dress is interesting, very downtown. I smoothed the front of my simple, impeccably cut Emilia Wickstead sheath. Thank you, Mother. She leaned in, her perfume overwhelming. Darling, we need to talk about the wedding. Chloe's family, the Van der Haags, is old money from Belgium. Their expectations are considerable. Your father and I were thinking, perhaps for the actual wedding, you could be a reader or help with the guest book. Nothing too strenuous. The sting landed, clean and familiar, slicing through me. Wouldn't want to embarrass anyone, I replied, my voice iron flat. I let my eyes flick to Ethan's radiant happiness, completely out of reach. It's not about embarrassment, sweetheart. It's about fit. Now come say hello properly. Chloe's been asking about you. I was steered toward the happy couple. Chloe was undeniably beautiful, with platinum hair swept into a chic knot and eyes the color of glacial ice. Her smile as I approached didn't reach them. Ethan, darling, your sister is here, my mother trilled. Ethan turned, his smile widening, though it held a hint of paternalistic pity. Ava, you made it. Chloe, this is my baby sister, Ava, the artistic one. Chloe's gaze swept over me, a quick, dismissive inventory. Charmed, she said, her accent a soft, European blend. Ethan has told me so little about you. You are a painter. Graphic design, I corrected softly. Ah, how practical. She turned her attention back to Ethan, her voice dipping into a conspiratorial purr. Darling, your father was just introducing us to the hotel manager. The Cascade Royale is truly perfect. I was thinking, for the wedding brunch, we could have a raw bar station right there by the infinity pool. And we simply must secure the penthouse suite for my parents for the entire week. Anything you want, sweetheart, Ethan murmured, utterly besotted. It's a good thing Daddy's footing the bill, Chloe laughed, a tinkling, cold sound. I hear the owner of this place is some reclusive billionaire, probably a tech weirdo who never leaves his penthouse. At least he has good taste in fixtures. She gestured vaguely at a nearby sconce, as if she were commenting on a lamp at a garage sale. A small, sharp pain blossomed behind my right eye. The Cascade Royale Seattle, my first major independent acquisition. The penthouse she was casually demanding was my West Coast sanctuary, filled with first edition books and art I'd collected personally. I'm sure the owner is happy his property meets your standards, I said, my tone even. Chloe's eyes flicked back to me, a glint of amusement in them. Well, one must have standards, Ava. It's what separates the wheat from the chaff. Don't you agree? Before I could form a response, my father joined us, clapping Ethan on the back. My boy, making it official. Chloe, my dear, you look radiant. Now, I've just had a word with the events director, Mr. Henderson. He's assured me he'll give us every consideration. I told him money is no object for my son's wedding. Thank you, Mr. Sterling, Chloe said, demure now. It's so important to have a venue that reflects the seriousness of the union, not some rustic barn or vintage warehouse. She said the last words with a delicate shudder, her eyes briefly connecting with mine, as if she could sense the loft apartment I supposedly lived in. The evening wore on, an exquisite torture. Chloe held court, detailing her plans for a 10-tier cake flown in from Vienna, a gown being hand-embroidered in Paris, and a guest list that sounded like a Forbes summit. Every so often, her commentary would swing to me, the dull, unremarkable sister-in-law-to-be. Ava, you must have some input, she said during a lull, her voice dripping with false solicitude. You're creative. What color should the napkins be for the rehearsal dinner? Or is that too mundane for your artistic sensibilities? Ethan chuckled. Be nice, Chloe. Ava's more into, what do you call it, sis? Minimalism. It's not minimalism, Ethan, it's poverty, my cousin Mark snickered from behind his drink. A hot wave of humiliation washed over me, but I kept my face a calm mask. I'd spent a decade building my portfolio in secret, buying distressed distressed luxury properties and transforming them into gems, utilizing a network of trusted managers. My family's constant, casual dismissal had been the fuel, but this was different. This was Ethan, who used to build forts with me, choosing to laugh along. Later, as the party began to wind down, I found myself near the floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the Seattle skyline. Chloe's father, a large, silent man named Henrik, was on the phone a few feet away, his back turned. The ballroom noise had dipped, and his low, urgent voice carried. "No, the shipment is still on for Tuesday. The Cascade Royale is perfect. The owner is a ghost, a corporate shell, no security oversight. We moved the consignment through the loading docks Tuesday night, before the wedding chaos starts. Yes, the Algerian pieces and the bonds. Tell Dubrovnik the Ice Queen route is clear." My blood ran cold. Ice Queen. Chloe's nickname was whispered by Ethan earlier with affection. The pieces snapped together with terrifying clarity. The vague, old money background, the European connections that never quite added up, the father who was more enforcer than aristocrat. This wasn't just a gold digger. This was something far more dangerous. I slipped my phone from my clutch and fired off a text to my head of security, David Chen, a former FBI agent. "Run a deep, quiet check on Henrik and Chloe van der Haag, possible Belgian ties. Flag for Interpol cross-reference. Urgent." I spent the next 2 days in a quiet frenzy, dividing my time between my hidden penthouse office in the same hotel and forced, familial activities. David's preliminary report came in fragments, each more alarming than the last. The Van der Haag fortune wasn't old, it was stolen. Art thefts across Europe, high-value forgery, and trafficking in conflict antiquities. Interpol had a thick, confidential file under the moniker Operation Gilded Cage. Chloe wasn't just a beneficiary, she was a key player, using her social grace and engagements to scout high-end venues for moving illicit goods. The wedding was to be their cover. My hotel was to be their conduit. The rehearsal dinner was held in the hotel's private dining room. The air was thick with forced merriment and Chloe's pervasive, critical energy. She'd already complained about the temperature, the wine, and the font on the menus. I sat quietly, watching Henrik hold quiet, intense conversations with several of his cousins. As dessert was served, a towering croquembouche, the conversation turned, as it always did, to the wedding spectacle. "I still think we should have gone with the larger ice sculpture," Chloe sighed. "But I suppose for the price we're paying, one expects more vision." Mr. Henderson, the events director, flushed. "I assure you, Ms. van der Haag, we are providing the utmost." "It's fine," she waved him off. "It will have to do. It's not as if we're dealing with the owner directly. One hears he's rather eccentric, uninvolved." That was the final straw. The contempt for my people, for my sanctuary, for my brother's genuine love, which she was exploiting as a logistical tool. I placed my napkin neatly on the table, the soft linen a contrast to the steel forming in my spine. The room quieted, sensing a shift. "Actually," I said, my voice clear and carrying, "he's not uninvolved, he's right here." A beat of confused silence. Ethan frowned. "Ava, what are you talking about?" I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes on Chloe, seeing the first fissure of uncertainty in her icy composure. I reached into my bag and pulled out a slim, titanium card case. From it, I extracted a single, black matte business card and slid it across the polished table. It traveled past the silverware, past the crystal, coming to a stop right before Chloe's plate. She looked down, her face paling as she read the simple, embossed text. "Ava Sterling Principal and Proprietor Sterling Holdings Group, Cascade Royale, the Andiron Club Vista Verde, Resorts." The silence was absolute. My father's fork clattered onto his plate. You own this hotel," Ethan whispered, his face a masterpiece of shock. "I own the chain," I corrected gently, finally turning to him. "I bought the Cascade Royale 3 years ago, Ethan. Sterling Holdings owns 7 luxury properties and 2 private membership clubs. The anonymous path I chose was building my own company." My mother made a small, choking sound. "But your apartment, the graphic design, a convenient narrative," I said, standing up. I felt taller. "One you were all too happy to believe because it fit your view of me. The unremarkable one. The one you could relegate to the guest book." I turned my attention back to Chloe, who was staring at the card as if it were a live scorpion. "But you're right, Chloe, about one thing. Standards are important, which is why I've had to implement the highest possible security standards at all my properties, especially regarding the movement of high-value assets through the loading docks." Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with panic. "You see," I continued, my voice dropping to a conversational tone that somehow echoed in the silent room, "when a prospective family member starts making unusual demands about dock access and storage, a good owner does her due diligence. And when that due diligence involves running names through certain international databases, one finds the most fascinating things. Operation Gilded Cage has a nice ring to it, don't you think, Henrik?" Henrik Henrik surged to his feet, his chair scraping violently. "You have no idea what you're talking about, you little." The door to the private dining room opened. David Chen stood there, immaculate in a dark suit, flanked by 2 men and 2 women in sharp, official attire. They didn't look like hotel security. "Ava," David said, nodding at me. Then he addressed the table. "Henrik van der Haag, Chloe van der Haag. I am with Sterling Holdings Security. These agents are from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, working in conjunction with Interpol. You are both wanted for questioning in connection with international art theft, fraud, and trafficking. You have the right to remain silent." The rest was drowned out by the sudden cacophony. Chloe was screaming at Ethan. "You knew. You set me up." Ethan was just staring at me, his mouth agape, shaking his head in utter devastation. My parents were statues of pure, uncomprehending shame. I watched as the agents guided a spitting, furious Chloe and a stone-faced Henrik from the room. The illusion had not just cracked, it had exploded, leaving nothing but jagged, painful truth. In the awful quiet that followed, I walked over to Ethan. He looked broken. "I'm sorry," I said, and I truly was. "I'm sorry it had to be this way. I'm sorry she wasn't who you thought. But I couldn't let them use you or my home for their crimes. You own all this," he managed, tears in his eyes. "Why didn't you tell us?" "You never asked, Ethan," I said softly. "You all just assumed. And after a while, I wanted to see how long it would take for you to actually see me." I left the room then, the weight of my family's stunned stares on my back. There was no victory in it, only a profound, hollow sadness and the grim satisfaction of having stopped a predator. The next morning, I was in the hotel's executive lounge, finally in my element, reviewing documents. The door opened. Ethan stood there, looking exhausted, older. "Can I come in?" I nodded. He sat heavily across from me. "The FBI has been by the house," he said. "They've confirmed everything. The forgeries, the thefts, it was all real." He rubbed his face. "I'm an idiot." "You were in love," I offered. "I was blind." He looked at me, really looked at me for what felt like the first time in years. "Ava Sterling, hotel tycoon, my baby sister." How did you do it?" So I told him. About the first small property I'd bought with my own saved money, about the risks, the failures they never saw, the quiet triumphs. He listened, and for the first time in our adult lives, it felt like we were just brother and sister again, not characters in a family drama where I had a fixed, minor role. It wasn't a clean fix. The betrayal ran deep for him, and the shock and embarrassment would linger for my parents. But a new dynamic had been forced into existence, one where I was no longer in the shadows. A few weeks later, I was walking through the lobby of the Cascade Royale with David, discussing new security protocols. We passed the grand ballroom, now reset for a charity gala. Ethan was there, meeting me for coffee. He saw me and smiled, a real one, tinged with grief but no longer pity. As I approached him, a well-dressed couple brushed past. The woman glanced at the ballroom and said to her companion, "Gorgeous venue. I hear the owner is some mysterious billionaire. A real ghost." Ethan met my eye, and a slow, wry grin spread across his face. I gave a slight, imperceptible shrug, and together we turned toward the sunrise-lit terrace, leaving the whispers behind us. The ghost was gone. The woman who built her own kingdom had finally stepped into the light. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed that ride. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one holding all the cards, or in this case, all the deeds. If you liked seeing Ava turn the tables, give this video a thumbs up. It lets me know you're here for these stories of hidden power and comeuppance. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. We dive into a new world of drama every single week. Want more? Let me know in the comments what kind of hidden identity story you'd like to see next. Until next time, remember, not all that glitters is gold. Sometimes it's just a very well-polished secret. See you in the next one.